welcome. My name is Mary Rowling, and I want to thank you for joining us for today's webinar. We really appreciate you taking some time to spend with us this morning to discuss the digital workplace transforming employee engagement. Our speaker today is Ritwik Bose, our Senior Director of Technical Consulting. Really quickly, just want to go over a little bit about who we are and what we do. We are IMPIGER Technologies. We've been in business for 15 years. We develop custom IT services and developed over 500 web and mobile applications. We implement the latest technologies such as RPA, AI, and blockchain. If you have any questions or would like to learn more about our company, feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to assist. And one last thing before I hand it over to Ritwik, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the Q&A panel in WebEx. We'll be answering questions at the end of the presentation. Thank you so much, and I will be passing it on to Ritwik.
Thank you, Mary. Welcome, everyone. Today's session on employee engagement. And I just want to brief about how everything works around the digital workplace today and what goes in to create that effective and efficient solution, which would be benefit for the employees in terms of helping them engage better with the organization. Now, to start with, we need to understand digital transformation overall, because at the end of the day, we look at data, and data is something that basically is the core principle or the core points that basically will ensure that your business moves further ahead. And that evolves around different kind of services and technologies which can then translate into a presentation layer, whether your employees are using mobile devices or web or different kind of devices, Internet of Things, you can get that data represented in the best form of way. Now, to start with today's webinar, which is primarily focused on one aspect, which is employee engagement. And when we look at employee engagement, we see that there is a lot of things which are happening outside of work. The future of work is approaching. It's a landscape that is remarkably fluid, requiring businesses to adapt new technologies and trends in real time. There's a lot of apps and websites to share information. And among today's workforce, there's a call to embrace the solutions so that individuals, they have the power to shape their own productivity in a way that best matches their work style. And there's a lot of the things that millennials today want. They want to be, they want to feel connected with their friends or colleagues. And that is kind of like driving the change. And we are equipped with these apps and websites that kind of like allow us to stay connected, informed, contribute for social, whether it is personal or professional reasons. And most of the time, if you see, everyone kind of like is focused on either gathering information from the web, using social networks to ask questions or help or recommendations, or even look at ways to promote your friend or colleagues. What we do normally do in LinkedIn by giving kudos to our to our colleagues and friends, or connect with our friends and promote their content. But if you look at it, at the end of the day, we always feel that we are the only person in the organization who's sharing our post with the social and professional networks. And these information can be the public information that the organization would want every employee to share and engage with. So next, coming into what are these apps and websites. Of course, they, according to us, it is they are superpowers. Right? I mean, you have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have different kind of applications that allow you to stay connected. And all these applications, initially, the whole purpose was for them to, focus on people-to-people connection. But as years moved on, brands, enterprises, small and medium businesses, everyone is actually leveraging all of these social platforms to either connect or collaborate with their employees and customers or vendors, whoever that person is. So now coming back to work, outside there are superpowers, but do we feel stuck in the 90s is the question. When we come back to our office, do we have that same kind of excitement? No, because either we are on papers or we are on age-old experiences that only focuses on tasks and completion of those tasks. Either we are waiting for the system to load, either we have simpler activity-based emails to read, and most of the time these emails kind of like go unnoticed unless another reminder email is sent, or most of the time we are just worried that whether we have saved the document or not. So this is our day-to-day work. We are not making that excitement come from outside to our work environment. And that's primarily because if you look at intranets or the workplace tools that we, as an employee that we work with, either we are not allowing them to engage with the employees, or we are just using that tool to inform our employees or just have certain task-based activities performed. So when we look at the pattern, now the digital workplace actually have evolved, and it's not something new. Just that a whole lot has changed as we progress the digital office experience. The technologies have changed, expectations have changed. Employees are digital natives now, and they expect enterprises, whether small and medium businesses, large or global enterprise, to create a social collaborative work environment. So if you look at this particular graph, from 1990s, there were specific areas that intranets used to serve, whether it is just for file services or productivity apps or just for unified communication. Then as we progressed, it became a digital workplace early 2010. And now we have gamification, leaderboards, spotlight. There is a lot of interactive ways of engaging with employees through these workplace environments. So let's look at a reality check now from intranet perspective. Now, intranets, when we see it, yes, they are complicated because intranets are still seen by employees as a place to view files or search for colleagues, or just another portal to click on links that will open up tools or internal sites. They are fragmented because intranets are specific to certain employees and who feel that they would rather use their own tools to do the work instead of using an intranet and focus on that. Intranets can be inflexible because employees have to work with what is provided, and most of the time these changes take time, and they rely on modules. It makes the system very rigid, and that's one of the reasons why over the years intranet has evolved in a place that it has become more of a experience for the employees to work on, whether it is consistent with the vision, mission, or the values of the organization that it stands for. It is also unstable in terms of, because the way the technology landscape is changing, it is quite progressive, and IT is always overwhelmed to keep in pace with introducing new features within the intranet and make the intranet more stable in that form. And let's just leave the last point with what it says. Intranets, yes, user experience always matter, and intranets can be quite boring if you look at it, but we can make it as interesting as we see in the way social networks or professional networks are today. Why do you think that Facebook came up with Workplace? Because their goal was to build meaningful communities in the work environment, and they knew that Facebook employees would expect similar kind of engagement platform within work as they would do outside of work. And that's primarily the reason is today's millennials would want a user experience that is easy for them to understand from a social, professional, personal level, and also engage with other employees who might be spread in different locations or even in the same building, and how they communicate with them. So why does this happen? Now, if we look at it, there are three primary reasons. Now, of course, the first is we want to save money and let the employees have what is existing. The second reason is most of the time we try to focus on our brand presence, which is primarily because we want to build our website best, focus on customers, and with all of this happening, we forget our employees. We need to remember that our employees are our first customers, and that's why they join us to take us ahead. And finally, the last reason is we just want to move on. And during all of this, we always keep forgetting that are we giving that right employee experience in terms of the tools and that one-stop solution within the enterprise that they can work on. So there are a lot of statistics. There are a bunch load of statistics on the internet, but just let's look at some of the numbers that are presented over here. Now, if you look at it, the average knowledge worker spends nearly about 20% of the work week looking for internal information or tracking down a colleague to help with specific tasks. That's the average that we work out. And an equal portion of employees normally say that they use work-approved apps. In comparison to non-work approved apps, which is like using your social networks most of the time while you're still at work. And most of the time, there are different kind of communications and collaborations. Now, we have seen in different reports, whether it is Gartner or Forrester or IDC or VMware, that 87% of CIOs believe that digitally empowering employees can drive at least 5% additional revenue growth over 3 years. And that's like a proven fact. The more you make sure that your employees are engaged, it kind of like drives that productivity. And in one of the studies that VMware did last year, they said 94% of IT folks within organization, they always report that there are significant benefits by adopting a digital workplace environment, which is not your typical intranets, but more of a communication and collaboration platform. And most of the time, the strategies for digital workplace revolves around 5 top goals. And in order of that is, first, of course, growing the revenue because you're making your employees productive, gaining a competitive advantage because at the end of the day, if employees talk, employees, they share what kind of tools they're exposed to, they build their skills based on each of that. So it always gives you a competitive advantage to have better systems within your organization. It improves business processes. Reduction of paper is one of the key things. And of course, it accelerates decision making because today when you look at it, there are certain legacy companies which takes about 5 days just to respond to a password reset question. And it still happens. In larger enterprises who are still legacy based, they still take that much of time. There are certain small and medium businesses who can do it in a fraction of a second the moment that information is out. So we just need to be sure that we are equipping these, our employees with solutions which are important to them from an engagement standpoint. So what we need to tell ourselves is, I'm not afraid of using the I word, which is intranet. Yes, intranet is going to be there, but how do we define that intranet? Or can we move that to a DEX, which is, according to us, is the new age of intranet, which is a digital employee experience? Can we create an experience which is digitally more beneficial from an employee engagement standpoint and also allows them to collaborate, contribute, and connect with the peers? So the way it has defined, the journey itself for intranet has gone. I mean, if you look at all these pointers from internal pages to documents, there are literally different ways intranets can be defined. But most of the time that we focus on is that modern intranets right now, they are not just a tool, and they are basically the front end for any enterprise for the employees. But this has to turn into a digital workplace that can have certain tools, platforms, and environments to work with. And then if you look at it, how do we make that digital workplace more of a digital employee experience, which is a sum total of all the digital interaction that a staff member and the organization can have. Let's not focus on just a top-down approach of information, but a bidirectional communication pattern within the enterprise. So there are 5 purposes of digital employee experience. Of course, content is the key thing. What content is being shared for the employees, how that can be used by the employees. And we need to also understand the policies that we need to make our employees understand, that how much of that content can go to the outside world. So these are certain things that we need to always understand. And then, of course, communications. How can we make that rich? How can we make the usage of different tools within an intranet to communicate for any kind of specific task-based queries or general information? We also need to evolve as a culture, because today millennials, they want support, and when they don't see the support, they jump. and that's kind of like how the mobile workforce or the digital workforce is changing. So we need to culturally, as an organization, change. We need to focus a lot on collaboration and social in terms of contribution, how whatever we contributed, whether we are getting the right amount of rewards back for that. And of course, we also need to understand our activities in the digital employee experience platforms. How much are we contributing, or are we, completing our task that has been assigned, from an intranet perspective. So all these matters, and the most important piece is the communication, because it is not a system or a tool that can be seen to perform tasks. It can also be a system of effective internal communication, because that is the fundamental to any company's success. As long as we have our employees talking to each other, employees talking to the management talking to the employee, we see that there's a success. Now, what happens is, most of the time, any organization, there are a bunch of chat applications that we use, whether it is Link, Skype, Slack, different kind of chat tools that we are using within the organization. And most of the time, what happens, we have to keep switching between these windows, which is having our documents open, having the tools open, having these communication chat platforms open. Now, we need to focus is whether we can bring everything into one environment, and that is where digital workplace play a very crucial role, because today communication is understood as a conversational UI. That's kind of like how the entire user experience, from the Web 2.0 to immersive experience and now conversational experience, has started. So if we equip our intranets or these digital experience platforms with a chatbot, that can actually be engaging enough with an employee who might not just look at different kind of navigational system. And that can be as simple as these, like a quick news bot. I can ask the chatbot, hey, what's the latest company news, or who's speaking in today's session, what's my training calendar looks like, and what's the number for Pat Davis in the organization, or any kind of subject matter expert related questions. So these are different chatbots that can actually be placed within your intranet to make it more communicative, make it more engaging for the employees to interact, rather than searching which particular link I need to click on to get to know Pat Davis's number, or which particular link I need to click to see the latest article or blog post from the company. So it is important that we need to have a certain kind of conversational aspect within our digital experience platform, because that's very important for employee engagement. And these are some of the other aspects, which is where we can have chatbot as a solution which can play across multiple layers, from the pre-boarding or onboarding a particular employee to the organization, to training and skill development, to providing or giving them 24/7 HR or admin support, and not just rely on wait for someone to come the next day and respond to an email for which you might have already sent reminder emails, and also to look at chatbot as a part of making the employees happy within their organization or the workplace, because today everyone is stressed. The work environment is stressful. So we need to understand how do we leverage these tools to make it easy and not mundane when they come to work every day. So do we see value in it? Yes, of course we see value in it, because the reason behind is, and this is a study that was done recently with close to about 1,000 enterprises across the North America's region, to understand whether intranets or digital experience platform or digital workplace makes sense or not. So yes, it is critical. They see value to it. And most of the time, the value comes from different aspects. Now, this value can come from the way that particular organization is laid. Now, we all know that this is the tax season. So I thought, let me give an example of a digital experience or employee engagement experience for one of the tax based provider. Now, we all know H&R Block. I mean, they're probably world's largest tax services firm. They were established back in 1950. But if you look at the fascinating journey that they had in terms of improving the employee engagement side of it. Now, let's look at some of the numbers. They have close to about 90,000 intranet users currently using, which is for all the people that are basically off site or on the field, and they have close to about 12,000 different retail offices. Approximately they prepare about 680 million tax returns every year. So even if you look at just these aspect of it, the reason their DNA, which is their intranet name, it's discussions, news, and applications. That's kind of like how they've named their intranet. It has been rated by a lot of providers in terms of one of the best intranets which are out there, one of the top experiences for employee engagement. But the simplicity of H&R Block is most of the time the information is very personalized, which means that as an employee, I can customize this entire look in a way that it gives me information that is right for me. And even if you look at the way they share content, there are a lot of content which are very internal in nature for the employees, for the for these retail offices. But most of the time, they focus on information that can be shared across to your social networks. So you can use the tool just to share it from there. And based on that engagement that you're doing in terms of how you have found this particular rated, what is the average rating of that particular article, you get certain appreciations or some kind of awards that they link up. And that's probably the most important thing, because today when we see content is probably one of the biggest challenges. How do we keep our employees engaged with content? And this content is not just intranet-based content. There can be content shared on the intranet that can be shareable on your personal networks as well. And most of the time what happens when we inform these new articles, when we post these blogs, it gets lost because either we have missed that particular information or we were too busy. So chatbots at that point of time kind of like always help us out in terms of ensuring that there is a way to always interact with the content that has been created. So the three most important qualities when it comes to an employee engagement solution through these digital workplace is you need to focus on interactive, you need to focus on task-based and personalized content. So interactive is making sure that you always publish content. There are online forms rather than forms coming from different tools or paper-based forms. There is a flow that is happening for every employee. So we need to understand what is there to ensure that every employee has a routine in a way of engaging with the brand, engaging with the company in different form or way. And we will come back to some of these pointers in terms of understanding what benefits we would get out of each of these sections. Now, task-based, of course, intranet has to be task-based. Any kind of employee engagement is not just about collaborating, contributing, or connecting with people. It needs to be task-based. There has to be certain information that the employee feel that, yes, I need to do this to ensure that I'm not falling back on my day-to-day activities. It has to be personalized for the employee based on their role, based on their location, and how much of and where they are in the organization, in what capacity information can be shared across. So most of the time you may ask, how do I increase interactivity? Like I might have an intranet within my organization or a digital workplace which is already there. How do I increase interactivity? And these are probably the 10 pointers that I normally tell all of my customers is to always identify a content with a goal in your mind. And that's the most important thing. Always start small, make sure that there are ways to engage with the employees by making them engage with that content, whether they're liking it, whether they're commenting on it. Easy to use platforms. It's very important to start with the easy to use platforms. I've seen a lot of organizations, small and medium businesses who embark on larger these digital workplace solutions, and they then gets lost in that in terms of customizing it. So we need to kind of like understand all of these different pointers. We also may ask that how do I provide a task-based digital workplace? How do I assign tasks? And these are based on role. These are based on the personal information that the employees share. These can be based on the training calendars, the jobs that are assigned to that particular employee, or whether it is a group-based task. All of that can be provided as a part of the digital workplace. And how do I personalize the content? Now, always it is important that we let our employees know that they can cultivate new information and not just forage in terms of getting information from other sources. So it is important that you identify the personalization based on the people who are within the organization. There are a lot of different kind of solutions out there. There are a lot of ways where employees can use different kind of aspect to the overall digital workplace, which is bookmarking their pages, or adding certain keywords to documents and things like that, so that you always can fall back and review them later. And of course, like creating your own personal task list, because you don't need to have another application which focuses on to-do lists. So coming to why we are here today on this particular webinar, yes, the employee experience or employee engagement is critical, and we would like to take a little moment in terms of seeing how PeopleOne, which is one of our innovative employee engagement solution, is helping small and medium businesses as well as large enterprises in terms of giving that flexibility to employees to collaborate, contribute, and connect with their peers. And what PeopleOne is all about, it is all about collaboration at the end of the day, because employees and employer, they need to collaborate. They need to have more conversations, help them be rewarded and based on their activities, seeing a lot of information that are being shared across. And it is a solution that can ease off the access problems for documents, searching the right kind of document. So most of the time what we have seen is the reason for organization to look for a digital workplace is because either they are not sure where documents are placed across, they're missing corporate communications, there is no bi-directional communication happening, which is only top-down approach, lack of access for the mobile workforce. They always need to be on a web environment to check their intranet, and finding information becomes crucial, finding the right person becomes problem. And we always work with the digital natives and the baby boomers, because that's kind of like where the world is heading in terms of the workforce. And also we need to look at, are we giving real-time alerts and notifications? Are we capturing the information that we are sharing with our employees in terms of their usage, what they're using, what do they need? And that is something digital workplace fills the gap for. And what PeopleOne brings is the solution which has a lot of different elements. You can share stories about employees. You can focus on helping people get kudos and get connected with other peers, make them, provide a little spotlight on them. We can focus on mobile experience, because that's where the world is heading, and ensuring that it's not just a web-only aspect. We make it more intelligent to connect with people based on a lot of different kind of activities which are related to artificial intelligence or machine learning, in terms of understanding who's the right person during a crisis or during any kind of event within the organization. We also need to have leadership messaging in terms of amplifying the messaging to the employees. And there are a lot of other aspects, which is focusing on events, how to create custom forms, whether we can access our tools. So PeopleOne as a solution is not just your traditional old intranet. It is more of focusing on giving the employees an experience where they can be the single point, it can be the single point of contact or the single point of reference for them. And at the end of the day, it is secured in the sense like most of the time we are worried that, yeah, data that goes in the intranet is supposed to be for private use only. But yes, we can make it, ensuring that it is for the people by authenticating who the user is and who is using those information. And the way our solution is structured, it has specific modules that focuses on certain elements of the organization, whether it is business related, whether it is communication related, whether it is content, or whether it is social. So we have made our solution in such a way that it is easy for any small and medium businesses or large enterprise to basically grab the solution, use it as a one-stop environment for the employees to interact and collaborate better. And of course, being a solution provider, we also need to understand, the usability and the accessibility for it. And this is how PeopleOne would look like in terms of our own environment. It's a completely customizable solution, which means that we can customize it based on how your branding is in the organization, your logos, your interfaces, the color schemes that you would want to use. Everything is customizable, and it is very task-based, which means that as a user, I know what I'm contributing in the system, what are the different features and modules I'm using or I'm eligible to use. It has a lot of information for specific type of users within the organization to ensure that they get the right information as they move forward. And of course, the most important part is it is mobile friendly, which means that whenever I am using the intranet on my mobile device, I still get to use it with the same kind of user experience in a mobile friendly world, making it simpler and easier to use for the employees. So if you remember the slide number 16 that we presented on what are the qualities, of course, interactive, task-based, and personalized are the qualities, but let's look at the benefits. Now, the benefits are important. It is easy to share. As I mentioned, it makes our employees feel powerful because they are contributing something. At the end of the day, entrepreneurs, why they are called entrepreneurs is because they have a vision, they contribute a lot, to the economic growth or to the growth of that particular organization. And entrepreneurial activities such as empowering our employees in terms of providing or contributing content for the better of the organization is, of course, important. And task-based, yes, how do I? Everything starts with how do I do this? And if we can assign these specific type of activities, it will be better. From a personalization standpoint, we need to use a lot of metadata information that can benefit the organization in terms of understanding what they're using and the kind of tools that they are using. So a quick recap on the digital workplace. It is all about not being stuck with one location with one device. You can use our solution from any location, from any device. And it is all about collaboration, engagement, knowledge sharing, innovations, continuous improvement, and task completion. These are the core principles of a digital workplace. So how can you make this happen? Now, there are certain things that I would like to share is, of course, today you need to start Intranet not just from a module perspective, but understand design, get feedback in terms of always seeing what your employees would want. Keep in networking at all levels. Every employee who's going to be using your intranet needs to understand what he or she would get from the intranet and what you as an organization or as an intranet or a digital workplace enabler, what you can provide. Keep prototyping. Do not all digital workplace is always a work in progress because technology is changing. Always look at a minimum viable proposition for your employees. Look at the lean design principles. Don't make it too cluttered in terms of having too many features and making it, as we go, making it difficult for the employees to use it. Understand that today employees are stressed, as I mentioned earlier. They need to have a very stress-free environment to work, whether it is digital or whether it is physical. We need to address both the needs. And always build a community of publishers within the organization. Your employees will always contribute information, and how do we make sure that those information turn into a content for the intranet and for the people to share, and create these content and make it into a story, because at the end of the day, employees love to hear stories about the brand that they're working for. So circling back in terms of the homework that I would like, and this particular presentation would be available for everyone. So use this slide deck to help identify what are the digital employee experiences that you would want to give to your employees, and which are the features that can be grouped under collaboration, communication, and contribution. So start with that, and of course, always ensure that it is an experience and not just another web portal. Most of the time what happens is we look at intranets or these digital workplace solutions as just another web portal. Do not look at it from that perspective.
All right, thank you so much, Britwick. We're going to go into the Q&A portion at this time. We have a couple questions. We'll go with the first one. How will the digital workplace change the physical workplace?
Okay, that's a great question. So organization needs to focus on the digital workplace now more than ever in an effort to support the changing work environment. Now, intranets and digital workplace environments are the backbone for supporting this changing nature of employment in this modern era. Today, every employee is looking for an environment that can enable them to provide information and get information. And the most important part is the digital always enhances the physical and provides a new dimension, which we are exploring in our work now. And that's one of the reasons PeopleOne is the solution, IMPIGER solution is critical to small and medium businesses, because it enables them to work within this workforce, whether it is external in nature, whether it is remote in nature, or whether it is within the enterprise.
Thank you, Ritwick. We have another one. Why do you say that digital workplace is so important to employee experience?
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, in this era, the era of transformation, we see that organizations have become hyper-modern. Because we are employing millennials and baby boomers. And it is important that, especially for businesses with large, widely distributed workforces, rapid innovation is necessary. This requirement, combined with the growing force on work-life balance, flexible hours, the ability to work from multiple locations, means that the companies must provide their employees, including different kind of employees, whether they're offline, frontline, non-desk workers, with an employee experience that is mobile in nature. And enabling your workforce to engage with co-workers and information wherever they are and whenever they choose is a difference maker in the increasing competitive market today, to ensure that whatever talent that you're acquiring, you are creating a positive employee experience, for that particular employee.
We have another one. Who should we focus on while creating a digital experience?
Primarily, we need to start with knowledge workers, because knowledge workers are typically seen as being the main user of a digital workplace. And current strategies are often designed specifically for these people. But today's companies still have process workers who sit at desk and do jobs, say, for example, in accounting, HR operations, and purchasing. They are very process-driven employees. And they aren't working in projects that requires collaboration, but they have more day-to-day activities. Then there's a large field of non-desk workers, which are the mobile users, who makes it probably the majority of the workforce in many companies today, and they might not have access to internal resources. And for this particular group, we need to ensure that we provide all of the information. So from a focus group perspective, it can be from the knowledge workers to the process workers to temporary to external partners, your vendors, suppliers, customers. you need to focus on each of these different kind of user groups and see what best will work for them.
Okay, I think we have one more. How do I match specific use cases needs to my target groups for digital workplace?
Okay, so as I mentioned, those different kind of user groups, the knowledge workers, the remote workers, as well as the process workers, there are different kind of employees who are working. So once you understand of these specific type of groups, you need to start defining your specific use cases that falls under each of these under the categories of like communication, process, collaboration, knowledge. Because, for example, non-desk workers, they aren't likely to have a great need for collaboration tools. They are not working in any project team rooms, sharing documents or files, but they will nonetheless want to receive internal communication, because at the end of the day, they need to be informed about what's happening, and they will have certain knowledge needs like a phone directory or a people lookup, or safety guidelines like what are the standard operating procedures, and access to employee handbooks. So these are different references that can be accessed. As for processes, they will want to be able to manage their, for example, vacation, their personal days, their access to their pay stubs. And that's one of the reasons all these different kind of use cases can help you build a good employee engagement platform or a digital experience, a digital employee experience platform, ensuring that the people get the right information at the right time.
Okay, thank you, Ritwik. That's all we have for today. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We hope you found it very valuable. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to help. Thank you so much for your time, and you guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone.